good news today is that we're not really adding a lot of new information.
Yeah.
In fact, today, we're kind of going back to square one. So if you didn't get the information the first time through, here's sort of your chance two. Here's try two. Except today, instead of looking at things that have an equal sign in it, we're going to be looking at things that have an inequality sign in it. Now, my first rule, I cannot handle if you are telling me you want the alligator to eat this way. Okay, like we are beyond that. We need to know our terms because headphones need to be out. We're taking notes, which means we need to know that this symbol is greater than. Okay, and this one is our less than. Technically, what word should be in front of this all the time that we talked about? Is, right? These all have an is. So, sort of the key, if you're not for sure, less than opens the same direction as an L. So we also have this symbol, which is greater than or equal to. And this symbol, which is less than or equal to. You just have to know those terms. Okay, if you don't know them, take a couple of extra minutes for a day or two in a row. Do it with some flashcards. I can share a link with you that I have on them for a Quizlet. Like, you just have to know them. When we are talking about inequalities, though, we open up this sort of door to something we haven't had to think about before. Everything that we've been doing up until this point, we've been getting some type of answer like x equals 2. If I say x equals 2, how many answers is this? 1. What can x be?
2.
2. That's it, right? Now we're opening the door for answers that say something like this. Okay, so we read this as x is greater than 2. If we say x is greater than 2, how many answers does this have?
Anything more than 2.
Okay, so definitely things more than 2. So what types of numbers are greater than 2?
3, 4, 5, 6.
3, 4, 5, 6, but what about like 2.5?
Yeah.
2.1?
Yeah.
2.01?
Yeah.
2.001? Right, so this has an infinite number of solutions. So remember yesterday when some of you were saying, oh, isn't that infinitely many solutions? And I said, well, yeah, but we want to be a little bit more specific. Because this answer right here has infinitely many solutions. It can't be all solutions because it can't be numbers less than 2. But there are so many solutions that we could never write them down. Okay, we also then have this as an option. How many answers does this have?
A lot. More.
It has an infinite number of solutions as well.
2 or more.
But how many more answers does it have than this one?
1.
Right? This has one more possibility. Okay, so if I said, okay, class, your homework assignment tonight is to go home and write down every answer for x is greater than or equal to 2.
Forever.
You would be writing for forever.
Couldn't write it down.
I can't give that to you as a homework assignment. It's not possible. So we're going to have to talk about new ways to represent our answers because there are so many answers we cannot write them down. So that's what we're going to look at when we come back from lunch.
Yes, sir.
Let's go.
So the first thing that we are adding to the idea of, okay, not only can we get an answer with an inequality, but now instead of just writing down an answer, we are also going to graph the answer. Okay, and when we graph an inequality, I'm hoping this is something that you've seen before and you have a vague recollection of it. I just want to make sure we have some of the understanding here. Okay, so if I say something like x is greater than 2, we could also represent this on a number line. Since we can't write down all the answers, how can then we represent all of those answers? Okay, and we will do that by making a number line. And the rules change maybe a little bit here. My students come to me often like 0 has to be in the center of a number line. How many of you came from that situation? 0 is in the middle of the number line and you put some to the right and some to the right. I got some of you there. Here is the thing. I mean, 0 is in the middle of the number line, and that's a great concept to know. But if we want to graph the number like 4,780, I don't need you numbering out until 4,780. And as we get into compound inequalities, that graph would only get more complicated. So you need 3 numbers on your number line for me. Okay, you need the number, you need something to the right, and you need something to the left. Okay, then here's where I'm hoping we have some memory from maybe prior years. If we have a greater than or a less than symbol, we are going to use an open circle on the graph. If we have a greater than or equal to or a less than or equal to symbol, we are going to use a filled in circle or a closed circle on the graph. Okay, if we have greater than or equal to, we are going to shade right. And less than or equal to, we are going to shade left. How many of you say, I have heard this before, this is something I've done, excellent, good. Okay, so the one that opens like an L is our less than, and that's also the one where we shade to the left. Okay, so if you don't necessarily know that as well. So by this symbol, do we want an open circle or a filled in circle? So here's another one that might be new. I know some students come from teachers. This has to be on top of that number line. Not right above, not next to, on top of the number line. It will be important when we get into compound inequalities. Okay, is this symbol telling us to shade to the right or to the left? Okay, so when we shade, that isn't super helpful to me when I'm grading and you're writing in pencil. Okay, I also do not need you to do this. Like, I get this most spastic responses from students sometimes. Just make sure it's something I can read and that is legible and that you are shading to the right. Okay, it needs to be on the number line. Not above it, not next to it, not close to it, on the number line. Okay, are we okay on that one? Okay, then, if the variable is not first, those shortcuts do not work. Okay, but not only do the shortcuts not work, it doesn't really give us information that we need. So we always want to make sure before we graph, we are writing it with the variable first. And this is the piece that it just does. It gets frustrating, it gets a little bit, you just have to pay close attention to it. That inequality symbol, if it ends up facing the wrong direction, everything else is wrong. So there's going to be several instances where that inequality symbol sort of flip-flops, and we need to make sure we pay close attention to it. If we have to rewrite this with the variable first, okay, we're switching the place of the W and the -1/2, which means we are also rotating the direction of the inequality symbol. Now, I'm also fine if we have a fraction or just a weird number like a square root or something that we need to get on the number line. I'm okay with you not having to count by halves. long as you have, so maybe you put something like 1, 0, -1. And then maybe you just make a mark right here for your -1/2. I'm fine with you marking your number line like this as well. The key is that I need something to the right and something to the left so I know you're at the right location on your number line. Is this going to be an open or closed circle? Closed. Am I going to shade to the right or the left? Okay, now, all of that information, probably review. Why am I using a closed circle?
Don't know, because it can be
Greater than or equal to.
Because it can be -1/2. Okay, so here, why am I using an open circle?
It can.
What is the first number that is larger than 2? 2.5.
2.0000001.
2.000000001.
2.000.
How long could Mitch and I play that game? Forever. Okay, so we can't write down the first number that's larger than 2. So this open circle says that we can tiptoe up as close to 2 as we want. We just can't actually be 2.
Wait, so I could be 2.0 and like
A bajillion zeros and then a 1. Because that is bigger than 2.
okay.
Okay? Okay, so we can also solve these things. We can also solve inequalities just like we solve in equations. And that really is the real rule. Like, it's the same. You solve equations and inequalities exactly the same. Except if you multiply or divide by a negative, okay, and it has to be multiplying or dividing by a negative to solve. If we multiply or divide by a negative to solve, we have to flip the inequality sign. Okay, so if you multiply or divide by a negative to solve, we have to flip the inequality sign. So we don't flip the sign if it's anything with addition or subtraction. But if we are multiplying or dividing by a negative and we are solving, we flip the inequality sign. How many of you say you've heard that before? Anybody know why? That's just what my teacher told me to do.
Because it can't
We
be
never
wrong.
know why.
Sam, what do you think?
Because you're making it a negative, so it has to be balanced.
So we're making it a negative is kind of the right idea. Looking here at the negative number line. Okay, do we agree that the positive side of the number line and the negative side of the number line look like mirror images of each other?
Yes.
Do we agree that this and this look like mirror images of each other? Okay, so if I have 4 and I multiply it by -1, where do I go? To its mirror image all the way over here on the other side of the number line? So because I'm flipping to its mirror image, right, I need the flip-flop reversal of that sign as well. Does that make sense? Okay, that is then like sort of functioning in that different pattern. So we have the very straightforward -2y is greater than 18. Okay, if you say, I forget how to solve a one-step equation, go back in your notes and look at what we talked about with our basics with 1- and 2-step equations. Okay, so what are we going to do to solve this? Divide by -2. Okay, whatever I do to the one side, I have to do to the other. Did I multiply or divide by a negative to solve this?
Yes.
Yes. So is that a reason to flip the sign? Yes. So I'm still going to do my math exactly the same. but I also need to flip that inequality sign in the process. So the idea here is hopefully that, okay, I have these skills to solve equations, so I don't have to focus my brain power as much on the solving portion. I need to focus my brain power more on when am I going to flip that inequality sign. What if we had x over 4 is less than -2? What would we do to solve this one? Okay, so we're going to multiply by 4. Okay, so I'm multiplying a 4 and a -2. Is that a reason to flip the inequality sign? I'm seeing mixed responses.
Yes.
Allie feels a pretty confident no. Why do you say no?
Because it's not negative.
What's not negative?
The 4.
But the 2 is negative, does that matter?
You're not using it across the.
Right? It's not what I'm multiplying or dividing by. It's not what I'm moving. What am I multiplying by? I'm multiplying by +4, so I do not need to flip the inequality sign. Right? I had a negative number. I still have a negative number. I'm not jumping to that other side of the number line. Less than or equal to 8 minus 2w. Okay, so kind of just ignore that there's an inequality symbol there, right? We're just thinking our normal steps here. What are we going to do first to solve this? Subtract 8. Okay, so the 8 is positive, so I'm going to use a negative. Is this a reason to flip the sign?
No.
Why not?
Subtract.
Right? Subtraction. Addition and subtraction, it doesn't matter if there's negative or positives. So now I'm going to get a -4. What do I have left over here on the right-hand side? -2w.
Now you need to flip it because you're going to divide by 2. By negative.
Okay, so now we have to divide by -2. Is that a reason to flip the sign? Yes. How do I feel about this as an answer?
Nope.
Why no, Mitch?
The variable has to be first.
Variable has to be first. So what are we going to do to get the variable first? We're going to flip that sign again. Do we see how this might get a little bit annoying to keep track of?
Yes.
And we are only at a 2-step equation. Now, sometimes you don't have to flip it at all. Sometimes you have to flip it 3 times in one problem. Okay, it's just knowing when we do and when we do not flip the sign. Questions over any of that?